time to be here this evening. Wanted to make sure that we give you guys the latest updates as it relates to the Metra station. You all have, in varying degrees, experienced this whole process, right? It's been, I think, over 12 years since it first got started, might be more. At some point, we'll do the whole history of how it started and got here, but we are at the last leg of it, right? So we had different conversations about completion. There have been some things that kind of slowed it up most recently. You know, we kind of envisioned it being done by the first quarter. That seems to be going a little bit longer. We've been getting the date, I think, of May-ish, let's say mid-late May is what we're hearing. Heavy, I'm always heavy on the ish until we get something locked in. But we want to make sure that we had both Metra here as well as John Byrne, which are the project manager and contractor that are doing the work. They're going to present to you what's been going on, what the timeline is, all the details on how we're getting to completion. What we'll do after that is we'll open it up for folks who have questions. We're going to do it, really nice. You raise your hand up. We'll come to you with a microphone and ask the questions. We've got kind of 1 hour from 6 to 7 to be able to talk through this. Then for some of the neighbors, maybe not all, there's a block club meeting for like the local block club from 7 to 8. You guys can spill on over and hang out, but just kind of want to make sure we made the best use of time. Alderperson Andre Vasquez, I'm assuming you guys might know that. Neighbors of Edgewater West. So that's east of Ravenswood to like Clark, and then from Peterson, kind of to Granville, but a little bit further. But also if neighbors from any of the other block clubs that are north of Peterson want to schedule block clubs and find time, we can have those conversations as well. So I'm the Alderperson Andre Vasquez. Staff, we've got our Director of Development, Allison Murphy, here with us. And our Neighbor Services Deputy Manager? Deputy Director. I'm sorry, I gotta get the titles right. Deputy Director Samantha Martinez with us. So we'll be able to talk through the Metra stuff. We'll have some slight updates on the residential permit parking. It's a little bit of a story. Happy to answer questions there as well. And so what we'll do is we'll have the Metra crew come up. If you guys want to come up and introduce yourselves and then get to the presentation. Thank you all so much for being here.
Hello, thanks for having us today. I've got a crew here with me, but my name is Mark Delaney. I'm the Chief Capital Delivery Officer for Metra. I'm going to have Glenn, my right-hand man here, is going to be giving you the presentation.
I'm Glenn Peters. I'm the Senior Director of Capital Projects for Metra.
Good afternoon. My name is Noé Gallardo, Metra's Legislative and Community Affairs.
Evening, I'm Phil, pastor. I head up the Metra Infrastructure Program in tandem with Mark.
Hi guys.
Hey, John Burns, you want to introduce yourself? This is our contractor that's working on the project.
I'm Carrie Peel, Program Manager, Senior PM for the Metro Peterson Ridge Project. Alongside me is Martin Vega, he's our Superintendent, and Tom Jelski, he's our Project Manager.
So the John Burns team is going to help us field any contractor-related questions at the end. Do I have a?
We got the pointer over here, so you can just.
Okay, you're gonna click me on.
I gotcha.
All right, as I said, I'm Glenn Peters, the Senior Director of Capital Projects for Metra, and the Alderman talked about how long this project has been in the works. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've been on this project from the very beginning, and I'm telling you, there's nobody in this room who is more determined and anxious to see this station completed and open to the public than I am. I'm ready. So I understand your frustration. I'm right there with you. The next slide is, what we're talking about here is the station is a new stop station for us on the UP North Line, Union Pacific North Line. This station, when it opens, it will be our 243rd station in the system. So some of the amenities that we're including with the station includes ADA platforms, ADA ramps. We are adding 2 new 6-car platforms, sheltered passenger warming facilities on both sides of the track, so we have quite a bit of reverse commute, both here and or we expect reverse commute here, so we're providing warming facilities on the outbound platform as well as the inbound platform. This is an aerial view of the station facility. This picture was taken about 10 days ago. So you can see the current condition of the station. It's moving quite along. This is the outbound platform. This is the inbound platform that leads, I'm sorry, let me try to do it. You can't see it on this side. I'm sorry. So this is the outbound platform to Kenosha. This on the east side is the inbound platform that will lead passengers to Chicago. This is the main warming house, and in the main warming house we've got, you can see open canopies on both sides that people can wait under protective cover, and in the center is a fully enclosed warming facility with on-demand heat. On the outbound side we have a large warming facility. It's 3.5 sided is what we call it. So the doors, the facility wraps around you. There is no door, but there is on-demand heat inside this warming facility that heads outbound to Kenosha. There is also an inbound shelter, and we do this quite often on the inbound side because that's where we have most of our commuters. So we try to spread the ridership. So some people will wait in the main building, and some people will wait in this shelter that's further to the north. It's not air conditioned, so it would just.
Because it's all enclosed, accidentally.
Well, you have it, it's all open, the door is open, so there is no door.
Yeah, if we could, just so to make sure we're able to get the presentation, so we can hold the questions until the end, please write them down if you need them, that way we can cover everything.
Okay. Next slide. Some of the schedule impacts that we've seen with this station is the platform. The platform was constructed, and we had an issue with the platform. The platform had to be rebuilt because it didn't meet the ADA tolerances. So that's one of the issues that's slowed the construction of the project. The second item is the roofing material is quite temperature sensitive, and so the material needs to. It's a metal roof that that's a zinc. It's a metal zinc roof, and the issue is it has a seam down the center, and that seam, when it needs to be crimped, and that's what protects it from the weather. Unfortunately, it's too cold, and the contractor has tried to do a test on that seam, and it cracks. So we're waiting for the perfect temperature, which is above 50 degrees. We should be able to start installing that roof this week. The temperatures are good. Today was 60 degrees, and we're hoping to have good weather for the rest of the week. It's a metal roof, as I said, and once the roof is installed, it's going to last for many years. So this is just an installation issue that we need the temperatures during installation. The third item on the list is we had delayed fabrication with the station signage. The project, as we've talked about, was under construction or started construction in 2020. And we had some delays in permitting, which caused the price of the signs to escalate. We had a long negotiation to be able to talk to the contractor, the sign contractor, about their price, and so that delayed us a little bit. But in addition to that, as you guys are probably experiencing with COVID, there is material shortages and price escalations, and that kind of all got rolled up into the station signage package. The station signs have been fabricated, so we're in good shape, and they're ready to be installed. The third item is the permit, and this permit continues to be a problem even today. The permit that we're talking about is we're supposed to have a permanent signal at Peterson and Ravenswood at the entrance to our station. We'll show that a little bit in the next slide. We're supposed to have a left turn signal into our parking facility that's to the north. However, in order to do that, we've had to go back and forth. There's a ton of utilities in that roadway in Peterson, and so installing any new columns, any new posts, any new foundations, it's just a spaghetti of utilities. We've had to coordinate with all of the different utilities, and all of the utilities have a clearance where you can't put your new foundation a certain distance away from their facility. And so we've had to go back and forth. There's been a back and forth. We think we're there. We've completed the final package, and we're resubmitting it to the city. And once we get that approval, we should be able to proceed with the work. I do want to warn you though. So we talked about COVID and some of the problems that we've had with the long lead items. And so what we're having to do with this project is we are taking the permanent signal out of the project so that we can open the station. And the reason we're doing that is because that permanent signal, getting the equipment for that signal, our contractor has already looked into it, and they told us that those are 9 months to a year to get that signal material. So we want to have this be separate. We're going to come out with a separate contract that's going to address that issue. This way we can open the station. Right now, that first entrance, and we'll go to the next slide. Let's just quickly go to the next. This isn't the correct presentation.
That's what we were looking for.
So we had some images that we're going to show.
To be honest.
I'm sorry. I want to make sure that I show you, I'm not sure if this presentation has the photographs. Does it have?
No, this one only has the
Okay,
one.
let's do this. Can I get my laptop?
You got your laptop on you?
I do. Where's it?
And I'll set it up over here. Okay. Yep. This won't take 12 years.
Hopefully not even 12 minutes.
Maybe 12 minutes. No, probably not 12 minutes. Yeah, so that's what I'm
Now it's gonna happen. Everything he is doing.
Yes, I hope they're basically that's what I'm saying. What you're seeing right now is
Most of the time there's power.
How do you sign up for it? My phone is
Do you want me to cover the slides for you? Yep. This, okay.
All right, I think we're back on track. I'm sorry for, you got the wrong slides, but here we go. So this I've covered before, some of the amenities that we'll see at the station, including the ramps, accessible parking, the 44 parking spaces that happens to the south of Peterson. There will be landscaping. I mentioned the signage. There's also a visual information sign. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a sign when we make an audio announcement. That sign sends the same written announcement to folks who are hearing impaired. Okay, next slide. So this is an image that shows those amenities that I just mentioned, but this is a three-dimensional image, and again, it shows, this is Peterson on the south. The station is bordered by Peterson on the south, Ridge, and then this is Ravenswood. And so this station has two accessible ramps on the east side, on the inbound side, and two accessible ramps on the outbound side. Station also has 6 staircases. So you've got, we've strategically located these staircases and ramps so that people coming from Ridge can access the stairs and the ramp to get to the outbound or the inbound platform. And the same thing down at Peterson end. There's a stair that leads here. The parking is down here to the south. So folks who park in the lot can actually come up onto these stairs, and then you're at the platform level and you can head inbound to Chicago. Next slide. We've talked about this slide before, so I think we're back on track now. Next slide. This is a view of the station from the platform level. As you can see, it's going to be a beautiful station. I've been out there and it looks really good. The quality of the work is excellent. And so I think you can see here we've got the signs. So one of the things we mentioned that was a delay item are the signs, and those signs are now starting to be installed. And so we shouldn't have an issue with that moving forward. Next slide. This is a view looking north at that same building at street level across Peterson Avenue. This is a rendering of what the station will look like once it's complete, minus the planter that you see. We've removed this planter that's adjacent to the stairs. The reason is we wanted to provide a little bit more room for folks to walk between Peterson and get back to where the cars are. So we've removed the planter here. But you can start to see some of the landscaping that will happen around the building. Now, one of the things that we talked about that was a cause for delay, you can see it here, is we've got a 42-inch high handrail. It's actually a guardrail, so 42 inches gets you a guardrail. But because we wanted to have a little bit more safety for, we wanted to make sure that commuters weren't going to be throwing things off the platform onto cars on Peterson. So we actually raised this to a 6-foot high guardrail. Next slide. You can see this is an image and your alderman has called me on numerous occasions, talking to me about landscaping, so we wanted to put a slide in here to show you what we will be providing in terms of landscaping. You can see the turnaround area that will be accessed off of Peterson, that this entire area gets covered with greenery and trees and shrubberies and plants and bushes. In the back of the room, we have some boards that show, it's the black and white versions of these images that you're seeing now. But on the second board in the back of the room, you can see the exact plants that we will be planting once the work is complete. Next slide. This is the south side, so this is Peterson here, and this is the parking that starts just south of Peterson and then continues. This is the 45 spaces, and this is the landscaping. So we've got landscape islands that we'll be providing that separates the parking. I think it'll be really lush. It will look quite lush once it's all done. It won't look like your regular parking lot. And we've broken up the spaces so that you've got, maybe 4 or 5 spaces before there's an island. Next slide. So we've talked about some of the schedule impacts. We talked about the platform slope issue. We talked about the roof and the weather sensitivity, the station signage, the City of Chicago, the traffic signal permitting, and then the guardrail is that one item that I showed you before. And if you go to the next slide. So the guardrail that we're talking about happens along here. You can see this is currently an orange construction fence. The guardrail will go along here and on the other side, on the back side, on the outbound side of the tracks. Now, one of the things that I mentioned before about the city permitting, so we're supposed to have a permanent signal here that allows for left turn lanes into the drive. We're going to provide bollards here to prevent that traffic from happening, and we'll open it up on Ridge so the traffic will be able to get into the 88 spaces and the kiss and ride area along Ridge.
Can you say that again?
Can you say that again? Like, no, Peterson.
I thought there were.
I mentioned before that because of the permitting issues, we can't install the permit now because we don't have a permit. We don't have a permit with the city to do that. In about a year, we're going to put that project out for bid, and we'll have a separate contract that will provide the signal here, so that we'll be able to remove the bollards and allow people. That's the intent. That's the design. That's what we want to have happen. We just can't do it today.
So for the first year, you're gonna have a different entrance?
Correct. That's correct. I'm sorry. So what we're talking about is we're going to have a signal here that will allow for left turn lanes into the lot. And because we don't have the permit, we're going to provide bollards across here to prevent vehicles from doing that. Otherwise, they would do that turn or try to make that turn illegally. So we want to provide an entrance along Ridge that will allow folks to use the parking along here. But more importantly, a part of this station, there used to be an alley that ran through here. And with the station, we vacated the alley. And that means that there's a condo association on this side that used that alley to access their parking. So now we're going to be providing them that access from Ridge to get to their parking through the lot. And the same thing will happen once we open Peterson, the signal at Peterson. Next slide. So we want to talk about the timeline, right? So one of the things that is of importance to you today is that the contractor, John Burns, will complete their work on April 15th. That's when they will be substantially complete. After they're substantially complete, what we do is we do a walkthrough. So they will walk through the site with our construction managers, and they will identify any items that need to be addressed, needs to be repaired, needs to be fixed. And between April 15th and April 30th, John Burns is going to be addressing those punch list items. After John Burns completes their work, then Metra, our forces will need to come in and do some things that are behind the scenes. Because this is a new stop, new station, there's more that they have to do to make sure that when we open the station, that it functions properly. And we'll get into that, the things that they will do on the next slide. But May 20th is the date. I made a promise to the alderman that he will have the station on May 20th, and I know he's hedging, but that's the date that everyone is committed to. We've also talked to the folks that are working on the back-of-scenes items, and they've confirmed that that date is in fact doable. We've got June 30th is when the landscaping will be completed. Now, we're gonna start that landscape work before this May 20th. It just won't be ready for May 20th, but it'll be ready sometime between May 20th and the end of June. Next slide. So these are some of the steps that will follow that will be done by by Metra starting on April 30th. So we need to coordinate the GIS location of the station, and that just means that they have to graphically identify where the platform is in space, and so that the trains know where the platform is, knows where the station is, and we will be coordinating that with our positive train control, which controls the train. It's a safety initiative that makes sure that trains, like happened with the CTA on the yellow line, make sure that trains don't run into each other. So something else that our folks have to do is they have to make sure that that all of the system works with the Metra Fare app, and so that when you board the station at this location, it's reading the correct station and you're being charged appropriately. They're working on this stuff now, but there's some things that they have to do once the station is done. Once it's open, then they go out and they check everything and make sure that that it works. The same thing we have to do with the electronic visual displays. Those are going to be installed at the same time that John Burns is out there working, but then there's final integration that they need to do. They need to make sure that those signs they're going to be better than at my station now, in the sense that you will be getting real-time information. It will tell you when your next train is heading into Chicago. So all of that has to be coordinated and checked prior to May 20th. And then the last item is just to do any testing of the train tracking and the safety announcements, making sure that those things work on opening day. Next slide. And this is our contact information. You have Noe Gallardo, who is our Community Affairs Liaison, Carrie Peel from John Burns, and the Alderman's office. Next slide. We're at the end, folks.
Thank you very much. I have a feeling it's not the end for some of the neighbors. So, wanted to make sure we get this going. We got another microphone. If you got a question, please raise your hand. Yep. And we'll go through them. Thank you.
Thank you for a very comprehensive presentation, and you actually answered one of my questions, which is how many parking spots are dedicated to this? And you said 45 south of Peterson and 88 north of Peterson for a total of 133, is that correct?
No, I said 44.
So what,
44 south of Peterson.
and 88 north?
No, just 44 south of Peterson and all the parking spots.
88 parking.
There's
Oh,
no parking
sorry.
right there.
Yeah.
Oh, north of it, it's 88?
88 parking.
88
So,
compliant.
okay, so 44?
44 spots.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question, which is, I know Metra did a lot of research to determine whether or not traffic could sustain a station such as this, right?
Absolutely.
How many cars do you anticipate trying to park in our neighborhood, to get or close to the station to use it?
So we actually, in opening a station, we actually go through our planning department, and we try to come close to, for a new stop station, they use their intelligence, and they try to tell us what they think the ridership will be. And our model has always been, we don't want to overbuild, so we don't want to build something that just sits there and it just becomes a nuisance, right? So based on their information, 44 spaces is what we need initially, and we will monitor that. Right, so that's what's in the plans right now. We'll monitor that, and if we see that it gets filled, quite on day one, then we will certainly look to expand the parking along the route. But, it takes funding, it takes planning, it takes all of that. But what we do is we try to look at this, the parking, 85% is what we look at. So once we get to 85% occupancy, then we say, hey, you know what, we need to do something.
I didn't get a chance to look at the boards in back yet. Are there going to be any native perennial forbs and or shrubs in the landscaping?
Native perennials, there will be perennials. I'm sorry?
I asked about native perennials.
I understand. I'm gonna tell you something about natives. So I did a station before and everyone wanted natives, and I'm just saying that this is what happened. One thing is natives can grow out of control, and what we found is that some of the, I'm just telling you, that we had some issues with native plantings in the past where they got out of control. And but take a look at what we have here. I'm sure that what we have is manageable planting. That's what we've asked our landscape architects to do, is to give us landscaping that's manageable.
Yep. You have the microphone. You can
Okay,
ask the
good,
question.
thank you. Were there any plans for creating a bicycle station at the station? Like in the Netherlands, where they have a train station like this, they have a covered shed, and they can park 100 bicycles out of the weather. It's an open shed, but is there any thought about doing that at the station? I think it would increase its use for neighborhood participants.
Yes.
There is, yes.
South side of Peterson.
That's correct.
And
See, you're paying attention, right?
He walks right by it.
Absolutely.
Now, next, one more slide. No, or go back.
Here.
Go.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, so it shows, so what
The
we.
bike rack here.
Yeah, we have the bike racks are gonna snuggle in right in here between the ramp and the warming shelter.
Are they gonna have a?
How many bikes is that?
I don't know how many bikes there are.
We have a really big bike neighborhood, so
Okay.
the more that we can get, the better.
It looked like there was also one on the south side of Peterson and Ridge. Did I not see?
There are some on Long Ridge?
So we do have.
Right here, right?
So let me just say that this plan, so we are showing some bike racks in here, but remember I talked about the fact that we're gonna have to close this, so we're having to make some adjustments over here right now.
But that's just temporary.
Correct, that's correct, yeah. So.
years.
I just want to remind everybody, let's do one at a time, but I do think that the question was whether it was covered by parking.
It's not covered by parking, no.
Can that be amended?
It can't be amended under the current contract, but we can certainly look at something in the future, but it's not covered now.
I don't need that. I'm good. I'm good. If you've got the Peterson entrance Ballard off for a year,
Yes.
give or take, well, the city might be longer than that. So you're gonna direct all the traffic through on Ridge?
No,
Underneath
so.
right underneath the viaduct?
Yeah,
Really?
so the idea here is we have 4 ADA spaces that are here.
No, I got that, but I mean, I'm talking about the entrance you're on.
So the entrance here is gonna be bollard, right?
The whole thing, right, for a year?
That's correct.
Okay, so you're gonna bring everything in?
No, we're not. So
Okay, where's the rest of the traffic coming from?
there is no traffic through here. It's really just the ADA spaces that we have here, and we have kiss and ride.
That's what I'm talking about, how the traffic's.
Yeah, his
flowing
concern,
in and
which
out.
is a concern I've got,
And the
is
people
so
who
if
are
you're
parking-
blocking this off, then you've got people doing their
Right.
kiss and ride
You've got
drop-offs,
an egress
but they're gonna
and
be
a
coming in
regress
through
the same
Ridge.
place.
And there is no light there.
So,
There is no light there, no.
reasonably, we think, so one of the things that we have here is along Ravenswood, we think that that's where a lot of the drop-off's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Because you put AD.
I will
We
argue.
need to really, you know what, I'm gonna speak to Mr. Alderman for a minute, really need to take a look at that.
No, yeah, so we actually, my jaw dropped when I saw it.
Yeah. Okay.
So just for some communication, we never got a formal communication about what was going on as far as the light, so I've got, the questions you guys got hit me immediately. Apparently it was coming up on some of the calls that they were having jointly, but we never got a communication about what was happening with the light and the consideration here. I'll say it as somebody who some of y'all may know, live here.
Right.
I've got my own issues
Right.
about what's gonna be happening.
And I live
So
across the street, and I have my own issues.
I know where you're at, yeah, so 100%. We're gonna have a lot of follow-ups after this meeting, so I'm glad we're getting all the
I know where
feedback.
your office is, so I'll be right there.
I know where you live, it's right there. Yeah,
Can I
yeah.
just piggyback real quick off of that same thing? Can you
Yeah.
also keep into consideration when you're talking about that? I realize it's gonna be congestion, but not everybody that wants to ride the train is driving a car over there or being dropped off. So I ask that you guys not think about delaying the opening of the station because we can't have the light on Peterson. And this is the entrance, so it,
Run over by the car right there.
I'm not suggesting a delay,
I'm-
I'm
well, I'm just-
suggesting maybe another view on it.
I don't disagree with you, I'm just saying, let's not forget that not everybody has to get dropped off or drive to it, so.
Yes, no, I think that's absolutely real, and also we know how great drivers are, so we're gonna see that be a mess as well.
Oh, yeah.
So we're gonna have to have further conversations about how to address that issue, given the fact that we're hearing how long they're talking about doing it. So that's something we gotta follow up on.
More on the same topic, like real
All right,
quick.
I'm sorry, we have another question over here that's been waiting, I'm letting her answer first.
I actually have three very short questions.
Sure.
It says 5:20 for the station opening, does that mean trains are running? Or we're going to have some sort of ceremony and the trains are gonna follow at a later date?
Trains are rolling on 5:20.
Trains roll, okay, very good, hold on, got another one. You're talking about a left-hand turn coming east on Peterson. What about going south on Ravenswood? There's no left-hand turn right now for people that are going to be parking in those 44 spaces. Is that a consideration? Is that part of the permitting issue?
There's a left-hand turn when you're going south on Ravenswood.
There's no arrow.
Yeah, there's no arrow.
There's no arrow.
But
So
there's
my-
the signals on Peterson itself, so that's how, when we,
But-
like, I come out of that one.
No, I do it every day. But my question is, will there be a left-hand arrow for the people that are going to be parking there? And for those of us that live in the neighborhood, because there's going to be additional congestion. Is that part of the permitting question for these arrows?
That to my
So
knowledge
there
is
is
not.
no arrow, the arrow that you're talking about is part of this, is left coming east on Peterson.
Yes.
Not going west on Peterson to turn left onto Ravenswood.
Correct.
So you're talking, okay.
Okay, so there's none, so is there a possibility of a consideration for a left-hand arrow for that?
So I think we need to, so there's a couple conversations on intersection. So for example, you're coming eastbound to make a left, but what they're talking about is,
No, I understand what they're talking about.
no, we're talking different things, Sid.
Yeah,
So one is the left when you pass the actual viaduct.
correct.
There's another left actually before the viaduct where plenty of cars get hit when you're talking Ravenswood as well.
Yeah.
So there actually needs to be a whole look at all the intersections. So one, left here, to your point, if you're going westbound, what that looks like making the left as well.
Correct. To the
So,
44 spaces.
yeah, part of what we're looking at separate from the Metra is a whole planning look at all of the pedestrianization, like ability for people to cross the street. We're talking with Morgan Madarum, who used to be our director of development. Now she works for the Committee on Pedestrian and Traffic Safety to do a whole view on all of it, right? Because Ridge is a whole nother concern because there isn't sidewalks in certain pieces there. So we have to look at all of it. And then partnership with Good City, who's been doing a lot of the walking and actually trying to point the stuff out to make sure that the two things are a little bit, they're together but separate as project, right? Metra's doing their work. The other stuff is city work as far as what's happening with the lights, infrastructure. That's something we're looking at in general.
The timing of that is not going to be May 5, and it's not also going to be the additional year that he's talking about for the left, or is this all a year from now?
These are all gonna be different timelines on the actual changes for the city part and the Metro part.
Can I?
One last very
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
question.
So let me just interject for just 1 second. So you know, I made it seem really simple that all we're talking about is a left turn here, but the city has already weighed in and they told us that they're not gonna allow us to just do that. We're actually replacing the signals from here in this entire area, and that's a part of the congestion that we're talking about, coordinating on all of the utilities. It's not just a signal, a left turn signal here. We actually have to go back and along Ravenswood and Peterson, we're also replacing those poles, the signals, and so it's a bigger project.
So it is a year from now that all of the.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. But
All
then the Alderman's talking about a separate project that's bigger than this, but I'm saying going back to this intersection of Peterson and Ravenswood, that will be addressed with new signals and new lights.
But we do want to check the westbound
Correct.
as well.
And then one very quick last question. The trains upon approach, will they be, do they have to honk their horns, or should we be expecting additional horns and noise as part of this, or is that?
The only reason they would have for honking their horn is if somebody is on the right of way and in danger of being hit. There's no crossing here, so there would be no reason for them to honk their horn.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We are the Peterson station, we live right next door. I think I'm concerned about the traffic, since we're only gonna be using Ridge right now, which we use now. I've been there 22 years, I can't tell you how many near misses I've had, even trying to get in and out of there. So we're not gonna have any, a light there, it's gonna be a huge problem, I'm telling you that.
I'm with you on that.
Also, you know, I'd like to petition for our own zone parking for that block. I think our main concern is when we have service people coming during the day, they won't be able to park there because people from 8 or 9 blocks, if you incorporate us into their zone, they would park on our block. And we wouldn't have any service people would be able to come, you know, throughout the day.
So okay.
And I was director of license for the city clerk's office, so that was my department for 50
Yeah,
years.
no, I respect it. So we're handing you, there's a handout as well at the table, but if you want to grab that handout, all that is going to become residential permit parking.
So do we just sign up for that then? Do we just go ahead and sign up for this?
For the permit parking?
Yeah.
We're working, okay, so.
Oh, it's not ready yet.
We'll answer the permit parking questions generally. I'll give you a breakdown. Yeah, might as well. So we're gonna go over the residential permit parking. Some of you all may know, depending on where your block clubs are, clearly there's a lot of area that gets covered by the Metra station, that we've been proactively trying to get way more of the area to be residential permit parking. First, let's go through the normal permit parking process. In order to get permit parking, neighbors typically have to petition. 65% of the neighbors in the affected area have to agree and sign off on a petition in order to do so. We learned a couple things. So if you're north of Peterson, typically west of Ravenswood, there was a lot of curbstoning that was happening. So that's when people they buy cars from auctions, they try to fix them and then sell them. So they had them all on the street, no license plates on there, taking up all these parking spots, right? That led to neighbors there trying to organize to get permit parking going. Barra, shout out, because you're holding it down.
That makes sense.
Now, they did all that for about a year and got all of one block of Norwood to be permit parking. So that lets you know how easy it is to try to do it through the petition process. So we then reached out to the city to figure out how to actually get it done, given the fact that the Metra station is gonna have a much bigger impact, and you can't do that process to get it done. In conversations with CDOT, the Department of Finance, the clerk's office, I'm missing one, right? Those are the 3 main ones, but I did remember one more. What we were able to find out, the Department of Law, what we were able to find out is that you could actually establish and expand existing permit parking to cover an area. So we then engaged in a whole experiment of actually expanding all the different existing permit parking to cover these larger swaths. So if you have the handout, it was broken up into 3 different areas. So you've got your area that's south of Peterson all the way to Bryn Mawr? And in between Ashland and Ravenswood, right? So that's all one permit parking area that would be covered. Then you've got Peterson to Granville and Ravenswood to Clark Ashland on the other side, and then that's a second permit parking area. And then you've got Peterson to Granville, Ravenswood all the way to Hamilton, I think, would also be the 3rd permit parking area. So all those have been submitted as legislation to create those in the permit parking. Get ready for some curveballs. So the city hasn't really ever done that before. at that scale, surprise, surprise. So we've been pushing on all the departments who are siloed as heck and don't talk to each other to actually get the thing done. So now we've been pushing on them, they all get a handle on it. We've got a meeting with all the different departments I mentioned, so they can talk to each other. It'd be great. That's next week.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, well, hold on. But please don't get your hopes up there, friends. So I want to make sure we get this right for y'all. So we started going down that process. Now the challenges that are happening is when you're getting that much permit parking, you now have to put up that much signage for all that permit parking. That requires the labor and the parts to get it done. The parts are part of the challenge, right? Yeah, the actual signage, the poles that you gotta put up, all those things are supplies that need to be happening. Yeah, the parts, sorry, yeah. The other challenge is that because this year Chicago is hosting the Democratic Convention, there's a priority as to where the signs are getting placed and fixed and shiny, because look who's all coming. Gotta make it look nice for the visitors, right? So that's all impeding on the speed with which that permit parking is getting set up. But thankfully, we have been working on it for as long as we have to even get it on their radar. We're reaching out to departments to get that going. So as to when it'll actually be installed, that's to be foreseen, but the legislation is in there. They know the areas that we're talking about. And then once we get it all set up, we have to follow up with Department of Finance to actually get enforcement going on, right? Because if you got signage up there and no one's getting ticketed, why do you have signage up? So that's all happening, and as we get updates on where we're getting to in completion on that, we'll be providing it. But that's the large story. So yes, the permit parking is coming at some point.
But no matter on zone properly now.
It would be all the same big 3 zones, right? So the reason to do that as well is, and I appreciate it, if you do a whole area of zone parking, now it's hard for anybody who may be a business patron to come and support the local businesses on Clark, for example. So that leads to the hours. The hours are from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. So in the evening when you're coming home from work, that's when it locks in. During business hours, it gives a little more freedom for people to be able to figure out how to park if they want to support businesses and that kind of stuff. We're going to monitor over time and want to get feedback from the neighbors as to how it actually plays out. Because here's a couple things we don't know. Everybody thinks that a metro station is coming, so the sky's falling and everybody from the city is going to park their car specifically on their block. Not exactly how it might work, right? It might take some time for people to actually use the metro station and get used to it. We want to get engaged on all of it and figure it out, and want to stay in communication with the neighbors as we do so. Cool?
Yeah.
General answer?
Can I just ask a quick question? So once
Totally, yep.
Once you push if and when, hopefully you push this through, the people that live in these 3 areas, then automatically we have to pay for it.
That's right. That's right.
$25 a year.
25 bucks, it'll be included when you get your nice city sticker. We'll get the communication out as to the process, and then as well as getting like the passes for people who want to visit. So all that will be communicated out. In fact, all of it is on our website, 40thward.org. We've been getting the information out through the newsletter, but yeah, as we get more and more updates, we'll share that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering how exactly we're gonna track progress or how well the station is doing. I see this as being really great for Sun High School. I mentioned in one of Lenny's meetings earlier this winter how it was estimated like 200 people a day were going to use it, and they laughed at me. It sounds like there's a lot of buzz and excitement about this station coming, and I wonder how many people are going to be walking, how many people are going to be biking, and how we're going to be tracking that to make sure that those people are being served and we're not just serving cars and people who are parking.
So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I can certainly get them and share those numbers that we have, that we're currently projecting. But then later on, after we do start service, what we do is we do counts. We actually have mode of travel surveys that we put on the trains, and we try to find out how people are getting to the station and where their destination, where they're going. So we will be able to track that in the future once we open.
And you have a timetable set up to track that, like within the first year, within the first 5 years? Like, is this something that's progressing?
I can answer a little bit of that for y'all. So consider we're gonna be still in a relationship because Peterson is gonna be closed off. We'll be talking the whole time, and so I want regular progress reports, right? So if you're doing the QR codes or whatever, however people fill out the survey, we'll be checking in to go, well, what's that looking like as far as utility? Because we also might be able to talk to that, right? To your point, people are like, it's all cars. Well, we could find out there's way more cyclists that are coming.
Right.
So we need more bike racks, right?
I mean-
I wanna make sure we've got that conversation.
Right, because, like Ravenswood and, Rogers Park, they don't really directly serve a high school, whereas Sen's neighborhood extends into, Ravenswood. I could see lots of students actually taking the Metra up here in order to get to class on time.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, great question. Yes, Scott.
Thank you.
Oh, these are landscaping, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Landscaping.
Get ready, guys.
I'm the former president of Ware, and I take care of the Ware Garden on Ravenswood. We have the Metra lease for the Union Pacific lease for beautification along Ravenswood. So a couple questions. I would love more natives, but I understand your point, and we don't want to delay things now. But we've been asking a lot about maintenance of the landscaping, and the feedback we got from Andre's office that he got from you is that it's the community's responsibility to maintain the landscaping. So long-term perpetuity, we struggle to get volunteers to help with our garden and all the other neighbors here. It's gonna be the community's responsibility to take care of the landscaping.
You keep it clean.
And keep it clean. Metra doesn't do that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just want the community to understand that it's our responsibility to take care of the landscaping.
Well, we didn't put it quite that way, I guess. I guess we are hoping that you guys will see this as a beautiful area to your community, and you'd be willing to help out in maintaining what we install.
So, just want everyone to have that expectation.
So when there's a bunch of garbage though, we have to clean it up on the property? I mean, we all have our own jobs and our own properties to take care of.
Yeah, it's not our property, right? It's Metra's. That's right.
Yeah.
Your property, right?
Yes, it's our property.
So they do, Andre, did you not say that they will do garbage can pickup?
We'll have garbage cans on the site. We'll do pickup, we'll do cleanup of the garbage.
Yeah, I will say, we've been having conversations to figure out how else Metra can be a community partner based on the headache it's been to get to this finish line. I appreciate that folks are hoping the neighbors can get it done. As I've said multiple times in council for other reasons, hope's not really a strategy out here. You'll end up in a situation where it's a mess. So we are trying to figure out what other levels and ways Metra can invest to be more of a partner. This is why we wanted to have part of the meeting, is sometimes we've been having conversations and we've been in between some of these and getting updates weekly, and some of the answers I'm getting, I've had concerns that I voiced directly and have voiced to the team that we need to figure out ways to actually become better community partners. And so I wanted to make sure that they hear it from the neighbors so they get a sense of what we already know when we're jumping into the meetings as well.
Great.
Sorry.
So a few other things about the landscaping. You're investing a lot of money in there with the plantings and stuff. You're only finishing in the beginning of summer when things need water. The Metra station at Lawrence, especially on the east side, planted everything at the beginning of summer. It was a very dry summer and really stressed everything out. So is there any plan that providing water or even us as volunteers can come in and use your water to ensure that everything that you're investing in those plantings survive for the long term? And then the last question is, my greatest concern is the area by the parking in that hill embankment. There's a large area, that embankment, that currently has really poor soil, hardly no soil. It's infested with weeds since they took the trees down. Weeds have all established in there very, very heavily. So it requires a lot of prep work, like how are you gonna kill off all those weeds, clean out all those weeds? And the landscape plan right now just calls for grass seed. And if it is being a dry summer with all the weeds, how are you gonna get that grass established? And who's gonna maintain it? It's a very steep hillside, and I work on the garden down here all the time. It's very difficult supporting oneself on such a steep hill. And really question whether or not just grass seeding is the appropriate answer. Because it's in no time, that's just gonna be a mess. A big, ugly, long wall mess. I think it really needs better planning because maintaining it's gonna be impossible once the weeds take over. Trying to establish grass and seed, especially if it's a dry summer like last year, it's never gonna happen. Thank you.
Let me address your watering issue. So
Any
what
notes
we
on
have at
paint
the
points?
station now, so all of the
Yeah, this I can
landscaping that we're
handle.
doing, we're actually providing an irrigation system. There will be water there, and it's the contractor's responsibility, correct me if I'm wrong, we typically have it in the contractor's contract to make sure that any trees that we plant, that they're responsible for making sure that those trees survive for 1 year. And so they're making sure that they're addressing that for.
But there's gonna be a water irrigation system from the
There is,
main planting.
there is, yes.
And then what about the hillside?
The hillside, there is no irrigation there.
No, yeah.
We probably need to look at that, the grass seeds and maybe do something that just.
I'd love to walk out there with you.
Yeah.
After the meeting.
Yeah, so a couple things on that. We're actually taking a list of all the pain points, so we're gonna follow up with a checklist and wanna make sure we bring everybody in. I'll be happy to send y'all a link to these calls. Not kidding, I want y'all to these calls. So thank you. Lisa?
So really quick question, the 44 spots, do you have to pay to park there, or is it, free parking like Lawrence?
You do have to pay to park.
Okay, it's just regular hourly, like for the air, do you know how much per hour?
It's not per hour, it's usually per day, and it's usually about $2 a day.
Okay, and then, going along with the like partnerships part, the Clark and Peterson bus, both are super unreliable, and sometimes one will come 5 in a row of 1 minute, and then sometimes I'm waiting for over 45 minutes and have to take a cab to work because of it. Is there going to be any discussions with them to improve the Peterson and Clark buses to bring people to the?
Yeah, that's I don't know how Metra interacts normally with CTA, but that's something we're bringing up, right? Once you've got a Metra station there, there's gonna be more traffic, so you've got Peterson and people wanna utilize it, which has to lend itself to CTA optimizing its routes to do so. That being said, some of y'all may know I'm not a fan of the president of CTA, and there's been a lot of issues with times all over the city as it relates to it. So much so that I wrote legislation and passed it to have him require him to come to quarterly hearings to city council, so we can bring all this stuff up, because everyone's experiencing it if you're taking CTA anywhere. So yeah, that's something we're raising up.
And we're adding signs at the platform level to identify those bus routes, so folks coming on the train, they will know where to go to take those buses. Now typically, that's a coordination issue, as you're alluding to, and we'll coordinate that through the PACE or through the RTA process, and we can have that conversation with CTA to make sure that they're coordinating the schedule.
And we can bring the state folks in as well, right? Because their districts cover it, to make sure everybody's watching and getting moving. Yep.
On the 44 parking spaces, can residents park overnight? Local residents?
Can they do it for $2? I don't know, wait, I don't know. Yeah, how does it, actually, my question.
I've asked this question for 4 years and they've never been able to.
Like,
answer.
when it talks about $2 for a day, what counts as a day?
24 hours.
So it's usually counted from the time that first train arrives, so. No, from the first, so we wanna make sure that the spaces are available. One of the things that we don't wanna do is, we don't wanna have residents parked in the spaces, and then folks that need to park are then trying to search through the neighborhoods to find a place to park. And so the spaces are for the commuters. We wanna make sure it's there during the time that they're there. So we typically look at the hours that they're gonna be there, so that first train, a half hour before that first train, and a half hour after the evening rush.
What are those hours?
I'm sorry?
What are those hours?
I don't know those hours right now, but they will be posted on signs.
7 to 11, I live across the street. They're somewhere in the 6 a.m. to maybe 11 to 12.
It sounds to me, just, unless you tell me different, the answer's still gonna be the same, as far as not being able to park over.
Yeah, you won't be able to park overnight.
Even over, so no one's parking overnight then, so they're just gonna sit empty overnight?
That's correct. It'll be ready for the commuters in the morning.
On Ridge, I think you can park on Ridge where you're talking about until what, 6 a.m.?
It depends on each side, it's a little bit different on there, because the two sides have different hours.
Because we
to
have
rush
people
hour.
that park there and then they gotta remember to run out in the morning and get off of those spaces.
Yeah,
So they're used to being routed out kind of early.
that's probably gonna be the same. Yeah.
I just had a question back on the permitting of the stoplight. Like, when was that actually started, that process? 'Cause it seems like we've been, well, I mean, like, seriously, like, the station has taken a while. Did it you just reach out to the city and they're like,
June.
okay, or is it?
I'll speak to that. That was June of 2022, once we kicked off, the bulk of the work. We had to reissue for the, traffic signal permits through the Office of Underground Construction. And that's when we really came upon those delays with what they wanted for the entire redesign. And that wasn't just a new permit, that was an entire redesign of that intersection.
And that will take another year after.
Well, no, so,
Yeah.
go ahead.
We can speak to this because we're a big City of Chicago contractor. John Burns has been working like hand in hand with the City of Chicago for a lot of years. And the biggest chunk of that time, we can't speak to when the procurement will happen, but the lead times for electrical components ever since COVID have been very painful. So our lead times for standard traffic signal poles, pedestrian post mount poles are 9 to 12 months right now. So that's where that delay is coming in.
Are you able to order them now, or you have to wait for the permits?
Well, we're trying to wait for the permits because that, the requirements may change, right? So we buy all of this equipment that we gotta now change, so we wanna make sure that we're, purchasing what the city is going to allow.
Yeah, so an example that I recall is when I first got into office, the Department of Water Management had approved a plan, right? And then they changed their mind on the plan, and then I had to go back to them and go, what did you change your mind on the plan for? So that was one of the, I think the first big stall, so we had to get in there and go and like push them to do that.
That was the pavement over the water.
Yes, right, the permit, right. So those are the things that are frustrating, even from my standpoint, is the department will switch sometimes the requirements, and it'll be because there might be different requirements at state and federal level. So that is part of the thing. It's also, when we're talking about the supply, it's also the same issue even for the residential permit parking signage, right? It's all been taking a hit. Yeah. No, thanks for asking the question. Yeah.
Just a question, curiosity about the ADA compliance that you talked about. I know people have pointed out to me, and I agree, it looks exhausting to see those wheelchair ramps, let alone having to put one up there, they look long and stuff. Was there any consideration for an elevator?
Yeah, so while it might look daunting, the thing with elevators is that they fail. We've got elevators on the electric district because we don't have the real estate to provide ramps, but ramps are always available. And for folks who are trying to get downtown to get to work and they show up to a station and the elevator's out of service, they've lost their entire day. A ramp never fails, it's always open, always available. And so unless the rise gets to be astronomical, we try to use ramps. It just works out better. And one of the things, so ADA requires that those ramps have a slope of 1 to 12, which is a little bit steeper. We actually go out further than that. We try to make that a gentle slope. And so what I find is that we have stations where we've done this, and most people will take the ramps rather than taking the stairs because it's so gentle.
With their bicycles, actually.
Yeah, with your bicycles as well.
That's dangerous.
So just to give heads up, 2 things, it's 7:05.
Yeah.
We'll have a little bit more time, but also clearly there's, like, I wanted you all to see this and hear some of these answers. I want you to email us, info@40thward.org, pain points, questions, because we want to put together like this list of here's all the different things to make sure we're having regular intervals and regular like updates. And so given the fact that we're hearing some of these more substantial changes right now, I want to have more regular check-ins, whether it might be quarterly, it might be over Zoom, and just have the neighbors that are invested like stay on it, and when we're having the meetings that are monthly as well, so that we can.
Would you say the contact point again, the email contact?
I live downstairs. info@40thward.org. Oh, you're taking those for the block club. I got you. Sorry.
Yes.
That's my father-in-law.
Can I just say one thing? I've had 4 kids that I've had to drive to Rogers Park to take the train down. I have anticipated this station. I'm really excited for it. I was naive to, like, I live a block away on Norwood and Walcott, and I look and I'm like, oh God, what else is there to do? Just, you know, get it done. And now you hear about the crimping of the roof. You've got experts on soil that, you know, there's so many things that go into this, and I personally appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate the work that you've done for the permits. This is a huge project. It's a lot bigger than I thought. And I had no idea until I got here, so I just want to thank you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, and I think some of y'all that have been here know how long it took to even get the funding to get it all going, right? So a lot of it was stuff.
They've been talking about it for
Yeah,
decades.
and so just so some of y'all understand how invested I am. You guys know where the patch landscaping is, right?
Yeah.
You go over the alley, that's where I live.
Yeah.
So like every day I'm looking at this thing, just the way y'all are asking, right? So we want to make sure that people are informed of what the little hurdles are, not little, sometimes they're large, but that people are updated on the timelines. Because there have been times where everybody involved has been frustrated with each other trying to get this thing going, whether it's the departments, the contractor, Metra, myself, the city. It is a large endeavor, but we want to make sure that at the very bottom, everyone's informed as to what's all happening, so that we keep figuring out solutions to it, all right?
Just want to add one more thing, which is if you got an email from us last night about this very meeting, you don't have to do this, you're already on the list. If you would like to be added to a list about Metra updates specifically, please do sign your name and put your email in the sign-in form, and we'll make sure you're on that list for project updates.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. So John Burns sends us, they fill out a form every week, letting us know where they're at every week. So we're creating like a listserv to make sure all those updates are happening. We include it in the newsletter sometimes, but you know, there's a whole bunch there, people tend to scroll over, but want to make sure you're getting updated. Yep.
It's also on the website automatically every week. So if you go to our website and go to the Streetscapes Neighborhood Development page, you will see a card for Metra, and you can click on that for the most recent updates.
Maybe one last question? All right, you didn't ask any at all, so you're gonna be asked.
I'm excited, it's like the last person. You're not giving much time for turnaround from when the project opens until the Metro does their. I know Metro is known for being on time. Do you see that actually happening, that short period where Metro gets it up and running?
Yeah, I do, because we're working on it now. We're working on the, those items that we can before getting into the station, so I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, and Hesse said, that May start date, that is 2024, right?
Yo, I love this guy. So it's also just for trivia, don't get me, it's the day before my birthday. So trust I'm gonna be watching this thing, like, it's gonna be a happy birthday or not, depending on how we're going.
I've already promised him a happy birthday. We're gonna make it happen. I'm in contact with the contractor 3 times a week, so we're gonna make this happen.
Yeah, and so we want to thank Metra, we want to thank John Byrne, because as you can tell, it's been redesign after redesign and permits, and they've been pushing through the whole thing, so I want to thank you guys. Yeah, go ahead.
I know we have given a lot of headaches for Ravenswood and for shutting down Ravenswood, but as the job progresses and we're almost at the finish line, we just want to say sorry for making Ravenswood bad.
That'd be a different kind of party for these guys.
Yeah. Well, we live down south, so we've been traveling 2 years coming up to this job. We're all way down south. So for us, the finish line is there. We're trying to get it done, and we're just trying to give you something that you guys will really appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Dan's gotta go home, but so for neighbors at Edgewater West, we're